finally, I will talk a little bit about age variation. And this is maybe an area where the practical implications of these results can be discussed. Maybe they are not immediate, as I will come back to later. But everybody agree that differences in ultimate attainment correlate with age of onset, so that people who start learning a language as adults and children generally or on average reach different levels of ultimate attainment in that language. And this is a graph saying that. So you have age of onset at the bottom there, and native speaker ability. So it's related to what native speakers do. So that is first language acquisition. So that would be the green line at the top. And the red curve there is what generally happens, so that the older you are, on average, you would have a larger gap to the second language, the first language speakers, in at least more formal aspects of the language. I wouldn't generalize these two functional aspects of the language, where you could be absolutely as effective as first language speakers. But even those who start at age 15 or later could reach very high levels of proficiency in the second language. And these are individual cases that I put up there. But what I want to show with that is that the variation between those who start later is much greater than the variation between those who start in the beginning. So the standard deviation among the adults is much larger than the standard deviation among the younger ones. In the literature, the notion of neonativeness has been around for like 20 years or so, and it's not a well-defined term. It has been used in different senses, but the way we use it is that by neonative ability, you mean a language ability where you don't notice in everyday normal oral communication that this speaker is not a first language speaker. So you would believe, if you are above that dotted line, that all those who are there are native speakers. And you would see that most of those who start before the age of 15 would be in that range, while most of those who start after age 15 would be below that range. And this is an investigation we did with 195 second language speakers or learners or speakers, users of Swedish. They were all recruited because they sounded more or less like native speakers of Swedish, all of them, all 195. But what we did was that we compared them to 20 native speakers, and then we divided them in two groups, those who had started before the age of 11 and those who had started learning Swedish after the age of 12. And you can see the numbers we had in the two groups here. And the interesting thing, and then we had 10 judges to listen to them with samples of their speech, and all the Swedish native speakers were judged as native Swedish speakers. By almost all, there were only two judgments that were where they were judged as non-native speakers. But this was much more than we expected. We expected the judges to be unsure, much more than this, because these 20 speakers were mixed in with all the 195. So they couldn't, they listened to many different speakers. But an interesting thing is that then you can see with the those who started after age 12, 6% of them were judged as native speakers by 9 to 10 judges, and a large group by 2 to 8 judges, but 58% of 1 to 0 judges. And if you look at those who started before age 11, you can see that 6% of those were judged as non-native speakers by most of the judges. So there is a complementary distribution there. And you can also see that for those who were judged as native speakers by most judges, in the early group, there was 62%, and those who were judged as non-native speakers with the later group, they were almost about 60%. So that is I can come back a little bit in questions to this, because of course you wonder about many things. I will just show another small picture quickly, and that has to do with perception. We asked, this is another investigation, we asked 5 speakers of different age ranges. You can see here, 5 were 4 to 5, 8 to 10, 12 to 15, 19 to 20, to listen to a text which they had to repeat. And then in the beginning we had put white noise, so it was a little bit difficult to hear. So in the beginning the white noise was not that loud, and then it was louder, and here the speech signal and the noise was at equal level. So then you can see here that the native speakers, they could do about 80% in the loudest at the loudest level. So they could just perceive what was said, while all the second language speakers were below 50% actually at that noise level. And you can see these were speakers who had started when they were children, and one group as adults, and they had been speaking Swedish for at least 10 years. And this group, non-native, they had the same background as the near-native ones, but they had a noticeable accent, all of them. Okay, so I would say that additional language learners need to be involved in interaction orally with peers and adults and adult users of their additional language, because that is the basis for acquisition. They also need to be exposed to language in the public sphere. So these 2 points are the difference between in oral interaction and the reason I also say peers is that there you have the identity factor. You want to be as your peers at those ages, and it's important that you have possibilities to interact with speakers of the language that are at your own age, and also adults, of course. But also to the public sphere, because that is where a lot of language is acquired. They also need to be involved with written texts of their additional language, both receptively and productively, that is in writing. And they can take advantage of systematic support in detecting additional language complexities and distinctions. Thank you for listening.